So, Derek, in the last Nintendo Direct, something pretty wild happened. But before we get into this, first we must introduce the dog behind you.
Oh yes, appropriately enough, this is Yoshi. We are pet sitting him right now, and he didn't want to be left out. So
Just
he's
blending
he's
right
just
in.
chilling in my chair.
Yeah. But anyway, in the Direct, two PlayStation IP featured, Patapon and Everybody's Golf. And this may have gone under the radar as well, but earlier this year, Freedom Wars came to Switch. It came to PS5, Switch, and PC. And for those who don't know, Freedom Wars is also a PlayStation game made by Japan Studio. And for those who also don't know, Japan Studio closed around 3 years ago now.
Around 2021, yeah.
And they were responsible for a lot of legacy PlayStation games. So if you think Ape Escape, Parappa, Shadow of the Colossus, they sometimes co-developed, they sometimes fully developed. But they've been out of action for a while now, with Team Asobi being the only, or Team Asobi and the Gran Turismo team being the only Japanese studios now at PlayStation. However, there's been somewhat of a rebirth. The talent may not be there anymore, but Bandai Namco have seemingly picked up the publishing rights to Japan Studio games. So we have had Freedom Wars, we've had Patapon, and now a brand new Everybody's Golf. 3 PlayStation Japan Studio IP. Not only picked up again, but multi-platform. So this is unprecedented.
It's shocking. Like you guys' reaction, like I think everybody's reaction to just Patapon being on Switch. Like nobody predicted this. Like that is so ingrained as a PlayStation game to me. Like they literally showed up in Astrobot. So
yeah, it's crazy. As soon as I saw Patapon, I was like, "Is Loco Roco next?" Because they're cut from such a similar cloth,
and that's so perfect for the Switch. Like you just imagine playing on the Switch or Switch 2, having Loco Roco there doing the tilts and everything else. Why not?
Yeah,
I never, and that's the thing. I never picked up Patapon originally. I missed out on it. I missed out on Loco Roco. So having a chance to play these games is great. Plus, they're very Nintendo coded in a lot of ways.
That's a very important thing. When I first played Gravity Rush, I think it just felt like Nintendo fans would love this game. They'd love the music, they'd love the visual design, and they'd love how gameplay first it is. There's a lot of really smart, just player-controlled inputs that aren't leaning so much on cinematic storytelling in Gravity Rush, and it feels like such an Nintendo game. And it's kind of wild to say that it's extremely likely that Gravity Rush will come to the Switch. And we'll talk a bit more about what games will come in a moment, but let's just focus a bit more on the absurdity of it all. So Patapon is crazy, but I think Everybody's Golf is even more crazy, because that's not just bringing back an old game. That's a brand new game, Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. And it's not made by Clap Hands. It's Bandai Namco have got their own studio to do it. I've looked at some of their games in the past, nothing too high profile. They did the Disney Tsum Tsum Festival game on the Switch and a few other things like that. But Clap Hands are seemingly still going to be doing their own golf IP, while Bandai Namco gets studios to pick up new releases. But I think even if you don't care about Everybody's Golf, the statement that they can just take these IP and make brand new games out of them is extremely exciting.
Oh, yeah. And it's so smart to... Because I'll be honest, when I heard Everybody's Golf for the first time, I didn't realize that was the same as Hot Shots Golf. I'm used to Hot Shots Golf and seeing all that pop up on the original PlayStation and having that be Sony's golf game.
Yeah.
Really funny to think that both were made by Camelot, Mario Golf and Hot Shots Golf.
Just like a year apart.
Yeah, it's really weird to think about. But then I think another studio took over after the first
Clap
game.
Hands took it then.
Shots.
But it's been on every platform. Every single PlayStation platform, apart from PS5, has had an Everybody's Golf game. It's been there since the beginning. And I guess PS5 has one now, but so does Switch and PC.
Not Xbox, though.
No, everything but Xbox. But yeah, it's crazy that these are both in a Nintendo presentation. When they first showed Patapon, my mind just went, oh yeah, this must be Ratatan, the spiritual successor. But then immediately the Patapon logo comes up, and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean Patapon? There's no way.
Yeah. And honestly, this is great news for that that successor. Like, yeah, this is classics that the old fans will be able to re-experience again, but it has a chance of getting new fans. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, remember Patapon on Switch? Here's Ratatan. It's like that, it's just from the same creator. Like, they really can use this as a push for their own game. It's kind of brilliant.
Yeah. And there hasn't really been
convenient.
there hasn't really been a standard set yet. But I wouldn't say to expect Sly Cooper or Ratchet and Clank.
No.
It seems like Bandai Namco have a deal for the Japan Studio games. I wouldn't expect Insomniac games or Sucker Punch games. I guess we can talk about what we do expect. What game do you think will come out of this after Patapon and Everybody's Golf?
The next, I think it feels like they're testing the waters here. There's not really a rhyme or reason to it, because I mean, I've never even heard of Freedom Wars before it got its remaster. I saw people like getting really excited, but you want a big statement for that fans have been asking for, and to actually get Ape Escape. Ape Escape would be the biggest get, especially if you do a Spyro remastered or Crash and Insane Trilogy version of Ape Escape 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, there's a ton of other Ape Escape games, but to get those core 3 games in one compilation remastered, yes, I'm there immediately. Here's my money. Take it, please. I will get that immediately.
You're saying earlier about how the fandom maybe didn't make sense with Japan Studio and PlayStation, because these are PlayStation-made games, but it wasn't really a PlayStation audience. So like with Ape Escape, I can see it doing really well with Nintendo fans, because it feels Nintendo coded. I think Nintendo fans would love using the right stick for, more than just the camera and things like that. But there's quite a few games that didn't perform commercially very well. And I reckon now that they're not just tied to PlayStation, they can. Ape Escape's for sure one of them, and I'd love to see all 3. I'd love to see some of the weird PSP games.
I would love to see it, because I do associate it with PlayStation. It is so inextricably tied to PlayStation to me, because that's how they basically sold the DualShock initially.
They were the mascots for some time.
Yeah, it was just a big thing. Like, it was their platformer, very much in-house, and you see the monkeys, you recognize the monkeys. They are so unique in their design, and it's just fun to play. It it's nothing too crazy, but Nintendo fans would dig it. I think
they would absolutely,
especially with the 3D platform revolution, to have this platformer that does have some really great platforming, some really fun ideas as the games go on, and just this weirdness to it. It kind of fits in with the 3D indie scene right now as far as platforming goes.
It does, absolutely. It's interesting how Switch is basically the only handheld right now, and so Patapon coming makes a lot of sense. But Gravity Rush also started on a handheld with Gravity Rush 1 on the Vita. 2 never came to Vita, that was a PS4 game. But there's aspects of Gravity Rush 2 that are somewhat downgraded from the first. So if you played the remaster on PS4, you'd get a 60 FPS game, whereas Gravity Rush 2 was always 30 FPS. So there's kind of a reason to remaster Gravity Rush 2 to make it 60. So if like Switch 2 comes along and that can handle Gravity Rush 2 at 60 FPS and bring it back to its handheld roots, that would be super, super cool. It'd be a great PC game as well. So in Gravity Rush, like, you use the gyro to sort of move cat around in the air. You can use a mouse for that on PC, DualSense and Switch Pro controller or Joy-Con on Switch 2 or PS5. It feels kind of perfect for that. And again, Nintendo fans would absolutely dig Gravity Rush. It feels kind of like tailored to them.
There's a lightness to it. Like, Kat is such a charming character.
Yeah.
Her story is a lot of fun. There is an interesting story. Even though Gravity Rush 2 has a lot of the same, not issues, but it reminds me of Okami, where it's like, man, this could end right here. Nope, we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, they're basically like, hey, we don't know if we're going to get a third game, so we're just going to stuff all the ideas into this one.
Gravity Rush 2 has like a sequel after the credits.
Yeah, it really does. But they're great. They're a lot of fun. It's a very interesting world. Seeing how Kat does all this, interacts with all the people, and then getting tons of costumes and stuff. And they could easily, like, for the remaster version, here, have some more costumes.
Yeah.
Put Kat in more costumes. Have a Princess Peach outfit. Why not?
That'd be crazy. I mean, there's a pretty high chance that Cat appears in Everybody's Golf. That has a lot of crossover DLC or just crossover characters in PlayStation games. We've had like Kratos and Sackboy and Cat. Pac-Man was in there, and Namco are doing it now, so Pac-Man could come back. I'm really excited to see if they do any of that weird stuff.
Like beyond those two, I think those two are the biggest ones.
Yeah.
If we're going to get PlayStation games, and with Patapon, Loco Roco, I think is also really great up there. The other one that stands out to me as a game that could be really Nintendo coded and do kind of well, because I remember people talking about this game constantly when it first came out, and it's such a weird digital only game to have it come back.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Tokyo Jungle?
Yep.
Tokyo Jungle is just, I played it a little bit at a friend's house, and it's like, this is oddly fun. And the idea is that you have various animals that are trying to survive in Tokyo against other animals, and you get stronger as you go through, and it has this sort of roguelike element to it. And you start out with the Shiba, I think is the main one, what everybody knows.
One.
And then you start getting bigger and bigger animals that allow you to last a little bit longer, but you can still keep trying with the Shiba if you want. It seems weird, and it's not like graphically intensive or anything, but it's fun, and I think that's a great fit.
It's such a fun game. I always felt that it was handheld coded as well, despite being PS3 exclusive. And I was always hoping for a PSP or a PS Vita port that never came. And this would be the perfect platform. PC would be great for it too. But I've wanted a re-release of some kind for forever. But my hopes have gone beyond a PS5 re-release. I want this on the Switch. It really would be delightful. And Switch could handle it no problem.
Oh, yeah. Again, PlayStation 3 game. It's handled worse than that, or newer games than that. And it's not graphically intensive at all. You could give it a nice little revamp that the Switch could handle. It'd look great.
So here's a question. We're looking a lot on the legacy side, and this is a legacy game, but the version isn't. So on PS4, they Bluepoint remade Shadow of the Colossus, which is a Team Ico cross-Japan studio game. Is it impossible for Ico, the Shadow of the Colossus, either in its original form or the remake, and The Last Guardian to come over?
It seems weird, but again, because they're so PlayStation coded, but so is Patapon to me, more than and Ape Escape. But I at the rate this is going, no, I don't think it's impossible, because we're not going to get sequels to those games.
No,
we're not going to get, we have the new game coming from, but that's not with Japan Studio, from the creator. So why wouldn't Sony try to put it to another big market and just get some extra money without having to do a lot to it?
Yeah. See, it does sound crazy, but then you think about it, it's like, yeah, why not? Like, why would they do Patapon, Everybody's Golf, and Freedom Wars? Games that aren't going anywhere. Well, Everybody's Golf is now, but Patapon and Freedom Wars aren't. So what's to stop them from doing anything else? And Ico, Last Guardian, Shadow of the Colossus are such isolated games. They're not made to be franchises. They are their own little things. And it would be, I can just imagine how crazy it would be for a Nintendo Direct heads, Fade to Black, and it's just Shadow of the Colossus. It would blow my mind.
We lose our minds. Yeah. Or like Star Wars Shadow of the Colossus, and then have like Ico in there, and maybe would it be a 3-pack, or would they do it separately?
They could probably get away with doing it separately, but a 3-pack. I
can see separately, but maybe I could see them maybe bundling Ico and Shadow of the Colossus together, just because it's been done before.
True.
Ico's not really a long game, so it kind of needs to be bundled, I think, in order to have a lot of appeal.
Yeah.
Unless you're going for a much cheaper price point. Last Guardian has some meat to it as far as length goes, so I think I could probably stand on its own, even though I don't think it's as. I enjoyed the Last Guardian, but I don't know if it's as beloved as the first two.
It's not as beloved, but I loved it too. I'd love to see it there regardless, though. It was a really special game. There's nothing like it. And that's the thing with a lot of Japan studio games, is they made things that weren't known quantities. They just made these weird experimental games, like Parappa the Rapper. Who was doing something like Parappa the Rapper back in the 90s? But he is now it's very likely that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in the future, and freaking Parappa the Rapper's going to show up.
would never expect anything like that, but sure, why not?
It can happen.
Let's do it.
Unjamalami, Parappa the Rapper, they are on the table. They're not this weird pie in the sky thing. They are actually likely to come to Switch at some point.
And with the Switch being such a RPG machine, it's not unheard of for some of the RPGs that Japan's. I don't think Japan Studio ever made a RPG on their own, but they do have hands in a lot of them. Specifically, Wild Arms and The Legend of Dragoon.
Both very likely. And Shadow Hearts and Wild Arms both have spiritual successors coming up as well. So they are kind of, those sort of dead in the water franchises that you could so easily remaster and bring back.
Oh, easily. And I think people would dig it. I think people would love to see, like, Wild Arms has a fan base and it reached, I think, up to like 4 or 5 games. Plenty of opportunities there. And people still remember The Legend of Dragoon. Yeah. It has issues, but it is.
I think they would both be incredible to see come back. But Wild Arms is one of those RPGs that just sort of screams PlayStation. There's a PS1 version of the first game. There's also a PS2 remake. So I wonder, would they just go with the PS2 version? Would they bundle them both together with the remake and the original?
I don't know how much of a difference it is between the other than graphics between the original and the remake. My guess would be they'd probably just stick with the PlayStation 2 version.
Yeah, maybe.
And then have like the first 2 or something like that. But again, there's a lot of games. So it's hard to say for sure what they would do. But I think it makes the most sense to have like 1 and 2 together. Looks like it goes up to 5.
It also depends which games still have their source code. And if you look at like the PS4 re-releases of a few of these games, like Parappa the Rapper got an HD version, Loco Roco got an HD version, Patapon got an HD version, which is probably what this is based on. So I think anything that got an HD version that's just so likely. But I'd love to see stuff that didn't, just stuff that never even made it to PS4. Just just resurrecting these things. Yeah,
I mean. And there's so much variety here. Like I'm looking through this list, and again, it's some of it's stuff they've only had a hand in. Maybe they've only published it. It's hard to tell exactly what they've done, but they helped out with Dark Cloud games, or Dark Chronicle, as the second one's called in Europe. They helped out with Siren, which is a PS2 horror game, which has a good chance to come back.
Gravity, I believe, right?
I might have been. I'm not 100% sure on that one. There's also the Vib series. I didn't even realize this was a thing until I...
it's more than just Vib Ribbon.
There's Vib Ribbon and Vib Ripple, and I think there's Mojib something. Like, there's a whole trilogy of Vib games that they could potentially put out as a digital game.
Yeah. I mean, live audience is saying, do we dare mention the B game? How likely is Bloodborne to come to other platforms?
If they finally pull the trigger and do have a re-release of Bloodborne, it makes complete sense to also pop that on Switch, or Switch 2 to be more accurate.
Maybe. This is different to a lot of Japan's studio IP, I believe, because it's popular. It's very popular. It's Dark Souls, Elden Ring kind of level. I mean, it never quite reached those heights because it's PS4 exclusive, but it still sold like 7 million. So it's hard to say, is this too successful to give away?
I want to say yes, but also no. Because the thing is, I don't think we're ever going to get a Bloodborne 2.
From Software probably moved on.
Yeah, they as much as they love it, it's just not going to happen. So why wouldn't you just try to get that game to as many people as possible and have that one game be the big success? So put it on Steam, put it on Switch 2, put it on, why not? Put it on Xbox. They really should. I mean, just to get it out there, because its reputation is so grand at this point that people would be like, oh, it's this one. I didn't get a chance to check this out. I want to play this.
I guess here's another question. So let's say, Bandai Namco, who published Dark Souls and Elden Ring, if Sony say, okay, you can publish Bloodborne, what's to stop them from doing a Bloodborne 2 like everybody's Golf Hotshots? Like they could get From Software to do multi-platform Bloodborne.
They could. There is that. Oh, I didn't even think about that because Bandai Namco is publishing the FromSoft games, so that is Bandai Namco might be the secret sauce in all of this. Like
They've got their fingers in a lot of
made.
pies.
Like,
They do a
God.
lot of Nintendo games. Now they're doing some PlayStation games.
Maybe I'm wrong in that we could just get a straight up Bloodborne 2 because of this whole deal,
They
or
could
maybe
just bypass exclusivity and take Bloodborne.
maybe that's the smart thing to do. Is that like they're working on Bloodborne 2, and they're going to put it out on everything. So why, or maybe not everything for Bloodborne 2, at least not at first. They'll wait a little bit for Bloodborne 2, but to get people hyped for it, here's the original Bloodborne remastered, 60 FPS, all this stuff that people want. And all of a sudden, like, PlayStation 5 has that Bloodborne 2. I really like the original. I might pick up a PlayStation 5.
Yeah. It still feels crazy that we're talking about this. It's almost like saying, when's Mario coming to PlayStation? At the beginning of this generation, none of this happened. It kind of started with Ori and the Blind Forest coming to Switch with Xbox, and then we got like Grounded and Sea of Thieves and Age of Empires came like to PS5, and it feels like everything Xbox is going multi-platform. But now some PlayStation stuff is. We had Lego Horizon last year, which I think mostly came because it makes sense as a Switch game, but that wasn't really a precedent. But now we have this precedent of just Japan Studio living on through Bandai Namco, multi-platform.
And Sony's been much more prevalent about putting their games on PC.
They have, true, yeah. So it's like Nintendo is the only one playing on their own now.
Pretty much. Everybody has this sort of interconnectivity, which isn't a bad thing. I guess it definitely makes those exclusives that much more important, but it's also not a bad idea to take your old exclusives and put them on somewhere else so that people might be hyped for the next exclusive. They just have to, because otherwise they have to wait, 2 years or whatever for that sequel to come out to their previous console of choice, or that they played the original one. So
it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if like NSO came to PC or mobile or something. I don't think they'd ever do it, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to sort of keep franchises in their mindset. But I think NSO's too successful for them to do that.
Yeah, I think so. It's just not going to happen that way, I think.
Yeah, we can accept it with everyone else, but Nintendo probably just aren't ever going to shuffle.
And Nintendo has too much of a war chest, and they recognize the importance of their IP. So I don't think they're going to...
That's the big thing, right? Like
it's amazing it came to phones at all. So that's the thing.
The games we're talking about here aren't games that were ever going to go anywhere. These were franchises that were dead. So it's smart of Sony to fish them out to Bandai Namco and give them a broader audience, because they weren't going to be successful just on PlayStation, and they weren't going to exist just on PlayStation because there's no Japan studio anymore. So it's just very smart. We are Press Place Jason is saying Puppeteer be revived. I'd love Puppeteer to come back. Puppeteer was really, really cool.
Again, you can look through here like Ark the Lad, Alundra, if you want to, like some of those older ones, and go to some newer games and could see just some odd, like I haven't even heard of some of these. Like, what the heck is Finny the Fish in the Seven Waters?
I feel like you're making that up.
That's on this list. Rogue Galaxy for a bigger game. And that's the thing. There's a lot of early level 5 games on here. And with level 5 getting a bit of a resurrection, hopefully, with how long it's taken them to get these new games out, I could see them kind of working with them as well to get new games.
Absolutely.
to get remasters of those classics. Like, here's your Dark Cloud, here's your Rogue Galaxy, here's your White Knight Chronicle.
I'll probably take every single one of these. It's just cool to have them. But it's also as a content creator, it's difficult to make games about legacy PlayStation in the same way you do legacy Nintendo, because people just don't really care. There's a small fan base, a small niche for these games, but they aren't kept alive in the same way Nintendo games are, so people just aren't really there to hear about them.
No, people know them. The fans who know them. They love them. They're all about that. But because they don't get re-released or carried on in the same way a lot of Nintendo games do, it's tougher. It's tougher for them to have that chance. And so to give that opportunity to Patapon, to potentially Loco Roco, for God willing, Ape Escape.
Yeah.
This no, this is the most exciting potential from the Direct.
Yeah, this has changed
Without a doubt.
everything. We should probably start to wrap this up because we can just go forever going over like 30, 40 years of PlayStation. But instead, we will stop now. In the future, whenever there's a Direct announced, our predictions, unfortunately, will be full of PlayStation games now. we'll be going.
Are we finally going to get Ape Escape? Are we finally going to get Gravity Rush? Oh my God, could it happen? Could we get Knack?
we could get Knack. We could get Knack. All right, everyone. Thank you, live audience, for joining us and for contributing to the discussion in that box down below. And just, this is super, super exciting. Switch 2 is being announced in a few days. Not impossible to see a PlayStation game in there now. Almost certainly going to see an Xbox game in there. But we'll stop here. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.